to grow an 8-figure agency, like you've had to help a ton of agents become successful, right? You've had to implement systems, plug them into your systems, help them scale and win. And there's so many agents that consume our content that are not winning, they're struggling, and they would love to start winning. What are some of the things that you have done to be able to scale an agency of the size that you have while helping so many other people win at the same time? What is up? Welcome back to the CA Power Player Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins, and today we have joining virtually, man, a couple of killers that I've been getting to know. Incredibly excited about what they are doing. When I think through, someone who's had success in multiple industries, built an 8-figure agency in insurance. We have on the left of the screen, we have Mike Jumaa. What is up, Mike? How are you, sir?
Hey, good. How are you, Cody?
I am great, buddy. And then on the right, we have Raychouni. What is up, Mo?
What is going on? I'm honored to be on, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. Excited you guys are here as well. Coming from Detroit, Michigan. I'm jumping off from Springfield, Missouri. Mo, for those that are maybe learning about you and new to your story, you mentioned and I've seen that you've built an 8-figure insurance agency, which is incredibly difficult to do, incredibly impressive. How were you able to accomplish that? What did that look like?
Honestly, I got licensed in 2017. Prior to that, just doing Uber, Lyft, working for UPS, driving for them part-time, just bouncing around from jobs for the most part. And the reason why I did Uber and Lyft, this was before Daniel Mack existed. So that was my way of finding out what people do for a living. So that was more so trying to find out my next move in life. And I, talked to people from all walks of life that are from, all types of industries. And I've interviewed, during the car ride, doctors, lawyers, engineers, so on and so forth. And the people that really stood out to me was people that were in business for the most part. I knew I wanted more. I wanted to empower people. I wanted to serve communities. And I didn't want a limit on my income for the most part. So I decided to pursue a career in insurance. And the guy that I actually picked up was not in life insurance. He was in property and casualty. But he said he got into insurance because he heard it was lucrative, but he recommended I get into life insurance. So he didn't necessarily recruit me. He just pointed me in the right direction. He told me if he could start it all from zero, he would get into life insurance because it's more impactful, one, and two, it's a lot more lucrative and rewarding. So from there on, I got into a captive company. I was working nonstop, 7 days a week. I was, mastering my craft, just trying to be the hardest worker in the room, no matter what I did. Worked my way up into leadership, broke multiple records on a personal level, producer, and as a leader, I was one of 2 people in that company to ever walk stage as a personal producer, as well as a team leader. And then from there on, I went independent about 3 years ago in 2020, or 4 years ago now, going on this November. And I built an 8-figure agency from there based on everything I've already learned. I capped myself out with my previous company because I was captive, only had one, handful of products, one carrier to work with. Once I opened up that market and I had access to more carriers, I was obviously able to impact and serve more clients and more communities. And the rest is history from there.
I love that, man. And how did you meet Mike, man? What's your guys' relationship? And I'd love for him to, after you kind of intro him, I'd love for him to jump in and share his story a little bit too.
Yeah. I met Mike off an Instagram ad, believe it or not. So Mike at the time was, I guess you could lead it from here. You're in the crypto industry.
Yeah. I was in the crypto industry for a while. I've always into just technology as a whole since I was young, right? And I like to go into industries that I see that haven't really fully adapted to the current age of technology, I guess you could say. And I like to find solutions, right? And build out those solutions and just to benefit the people that, are primarily in that industry. So that's what we did here at FEX Life for life insurance agents.
So initially when I contacted him, it was for a mining rig at the time. Not to go off track, but there was you can mine Ethereum, and he had this, I'll build your rig out, there's a set price. I said, hey, I'm interested. And from there on, just kind of figured, I see what else he would want to, pursue a career in, what his future was looking like, and what he was interested in doing long term. And he was interviewing me about what I do and, the background I'm in. And I literally told him, he told me, if there's one thing you could solve, which is a very clever phrase, by the way, he said, if there's one thing you could solve and kind of streamline and just put all in one package, what would it be? And that's when FEX Life was born, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's go, man. That's awesome. I mean, dude, Mike, that's incredibly impressive. You're talking about crypto and tech and all these different things. And it's funny, you said, hey, industries that are behind. Dude, insurance is freaking ancient, and we act like it most of the time. It's crazy. Yeah, it's wild. Mo, when you first started in the business, man, what was it like when you got licensed in 2017? Did you have immediate success? Did you struggle for some months until you figured your way? Like, what did that look like?
Well, here was my philosophy at the time. I was one of those that had success when I was officially released from training, but what happened prior to that is what we should probably touch on. I wasn't trained really well. I was given the wrong script that was probably 5 years old. It wasn't discovered until I had it fully memorized the day prior to actually me being, I had to present and see if I knew my script or not. So there was a lot of hiccups and a lot of, I guess, inconsistencies and instabilities, if you will. And, for the most part, it was more so trying to compile a year's worth of knowledge and experience into, a couple of weeks if I could. And I knew the only way to do that was to do what the greats were doing, but do it better. So if I seen a top performer working X amount of hours, I wanted to work more hours, even though I was just training. I wanted to put in more than they were putting in because I knew that my return, my ROI would be guaranteed essentially if I do what the greats were doing. So there's always going to be a group of pessimistic people. There's a group of optimistic people, and the optimistic people are usually the ones that are performing. So I wanted to only listen to them. My ears were open to them and closed off to everybody else. But I was putting in the hours necessary to master my craft prior to my release.
Yeah, what did you focus on? Like, if you're speaking to a new agent that's struggling, like what do you think is important and relevant? Because there's a lot of different things that agents are they're hearing all over the industry all the time.
I agree. So that's something I came across also because I was on YouTube looking up different videos. YouTube is essentially a search engine for people that are looking to get help. But then at the same token, you could also come across two credible people that can give you conflicting advice, even though they're both right. So it's really hard to just go on there and surf the net. Essentially, you just got to follow one person that's doing it right and follow them to the T and make sure that individual's up on current market trends. Like, for instance, if somebody sold insurance successfully in the 70s, my props and respect will always be, for them. But at the end of the day, they don't understand current techniques and the modern way of selling, marketing, so on and so forth. So my number one advice would be make sure the person you're listening to knows what they're doing and they're doing it currently or have done it recently. Number two, jump in the water. Stop trying to memorize everything. Go all in, start calling, start talking to people. And as long as you're optimistic and the bare minimum, you'll figure it out.
Yes, you will, man. So true. I think that's a huge piece. Like, everybody wants to know everything before they do anything. And they're like, scared to death and there's no activity. Also, Mike, you're nodding your head, man. Is that what you've seen as well?
100%, man. I think that goes for any industry too, right? Like, I think a lot of people get scared to jump in the deep end, but I think that sometimes that's the only way you can learn. It's sink or swim, right? And you can develop your own strategies by doing that too, right? That maybe other people haven't thought of either, because you're kind of looking in a new lane of things, right? You're not, reading a book about something that happened years and years ago and trying to replicate. You create your own style.
Correct. Yeah. I was talking to a guy earlier on Zoom, and he had a sign in the background, and I think it said something about like, you're never going to learn. Oh, you're never going to learn to swim if you just dip your toes in, and I'm like, exactly. So true. Yeah.
And just so I don't confuse your audience, I'm sorry. When he says create your own lane, I just want to touch on that. Don't try to reinvent the wheel right away.
Yeah.
Follow whatever works. You can add your own touch once it works.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just so the audience doesn't get confused.
Yes. Good. Yeah. Also, like when you to grow an 8-figure agency, like you've had to help a ton of agents become successful, right? You've had to implement systems, plug them into your systems, help them scale and win. And there's so many agents that consume our content that are not winning, they're struggling, and they would love to start winning. What are some of the things that you have done to be able to scale an agency of the size that you have while helping so many other people win at the same time?
Correct. So, I'm sure you've heard the quote. I don't remember it exactly. It's by Zig Ziglar. For you to achieve greatness, essentially, somewhere along the line of this context, you have to help, thousands of other people achieve their goals also. So at the end of the day, you have to streamline and simplify your business as much as you possibly can. I think the problem, Cody, is, again, it's one of them is analysis paralysis. Another one is a lot of people are transitioning from a 9 to 5 and going into being 1099, somewhat of a solopreneur when they first start off. Stop. I feel like people that are trying to get down the systems and processes and formulas prior to recalibrating their mindset to become an entrepreneur is one of the biggest hindrance, because it's easy to blame something or someone. If you take self-accountability and you realize, okay, I'm programming myself from going to somebody that is worth an hourly wage to somebody that's worth what I'm putting in, and everything that happens within my realm and my world is 100% my fault, that is the first step to truly unlocking unlimited potential in your mind, because now anything that happens, you'll blame you and you'll figure it out. So whether you have a relentless training system or the worst training system, the best upline, the worst upline, I look at myself and many others as an example. I've noticed a lot of people that get overfed rely on the spoon too much. They rely on getting fed too much. You have to, once you train somebody to become self-accountable rather than to rely on you every single second, they are, 1, far more successful, and 2, far more successful early on. It doesn't take longer for them.
True. Yep. So true. When you think about some of the more successful agents that you've worked with, right, over the years that have had the most success, what were they consistently doing each and every week? Like, what have you noticed separates the top performers versus the underperformers?
First things first, optimism. If you're pessimistic, you wake up with a nasty thought, or you go into work with a nasty thought. You have a nasty thought in your head before you pick up the phone. You've already poisoned your entire day. You've poisoned your lead batch. You've poisoned your enthusiasm. You've poisoned everything. This is actually a really good thing that you're touching on. When I was at my previous company, this company is notorious for having 10, 15-year-old leads. We were calling leads that had demographics for, say, I guess, younger individuals and teenagers. It was like a safety kit of some kind. And those kids were somewhat adults at this point. So I was having to call and still try to set the appointment. And I still figured a way out. This isn't to boast or brag, but it was the inner optimism that I had and the hunger that was within me. And as soon as I got that lead pack, I had some affiliates in the office that were laughing. They're like, yeah, you're not going to sell anything on that. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because at that particular company, once you prove yourself, you get certain leads. These leads are known to be better, essentially. I still wanted to turn trash into treasure no matter what anybody was telling me, and I did. And I got to the point, Cody, here's a prime example. I was setting appointments just to give people the kit for free, because it's a bait and switch structure, which I don't agree with today. But anyway, the point is I was still selling them. And the people that I was not selling, I was creating referrals, a generation of referrals that were higher quality than the initial lead itself. That makes sense. So I was telling the people, here's the kit. We're going to contact some people. I'm not only going to give them the kit, but I'm also going to present to them the opportunity that you could not qualify for today, or you did not see enough urgency for today. And I was getting higher quality leads because the reputability and credibility behind the referral was the person that referred them. So the point of this is there's always a way to figure it out no matter what. There are people cold knocking today, knocking business to business, door to door, doing whatever it takes to become successful.
That's good. Oh yeah, it's funny you mentioned optimism. I don't know if a lot of my audience knows this, but LIMRA did a study where they surveyed like the top 1% of the life insurance industry. And their number one most common character attribute amongst the top 1% was optimism. That was the exact
I
word.
just learned that
And
as well. Wow.
freaking crazy, bro. It's amazing. Yeah, super powerful.
So it's
Super
not just
powerful.
me, it's Limra. There's your feedback. There's a preliminary study of some kind that validated what I said. It's optimism. It definitely is.
So true. Yeah, so true. Also, Mike, what have you noticed from you're gonna be my crypto coach now, okay? You're a lot smarter than me. From a tech standpoint, what are you noticing to like speak from that angle of things that are helping agents when they start to embrace technology?
100%. I mean, if you are helped by the right software, right, your workflow can be dramatically increased, and that's kind of what we built this whole CRM around. Before I start building anything, I like to go out and see all the competitors, right? I don't like just look at their landing pages. I like to create accounts, act as an agent, right? Use the platform, jot down anything that I think is inefficient, right? And we also like to interview agents too, right? Since day one, we've been building this for almost 3 years now, fully from the ground up, our own software, because we believe that's the only way you can create a really cohesive software that just works and is efficient, right? And from my research, I found that a lot of insurance-based CRMs are just white labeled products, right? Which it doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room to create the features that are needed for agents, right? Another thing I want to add to that is a lot of this software, we found they'll say they include a dialer, they include this, but the agent has to pay more and more, and it's not cohesive. It just doesn't work. So that gave me a lot of motivation to create something that just helps these agents out, and constantly testing the software with agents through update after update after update of FEX Life to just make it rock solid and bulletproof, man.
And if I could add to that, Cody, for the most part, this is something that, and when he reached out also, when I was doing my research on every CRM that's available out there, the thing that I'm not understanding is, it's hard as it is. You have your model, your company, it's called 8% Nation, right? We're going to turn 8% to God forbid 4% if we keep teaching people how to be marketers and sellers at the same token. The insurance industry is complex as it is when you first start off. You can simplify it. It's going to take hard work on its own. We're teaching people now, which is nothing wrong with it. Teach seasoned veterans that know how to sell, how to market. But if you're taking somebody that doesn't know how to sell, we're cultivating the art of selling, right? Now we're going to try to cultivate the art of marketing, which is changing drastically and dramatically every single day. That, to me, just doesn't make any logical sense at all. It doesn't seem beneficial to the agent. In my opinion, right, if you can buy leads or solicit your warm market, whatever you want to do, or social selling, you can tap into these markets where the marketing's already done for you. You have high quality prospects that all you have to do is present to. So you only have to master the art of selling once again. I don't believe in the philosophy of marketing and selling when you're just brand new into the industry, but that's my take on it.
That's a good take. Yeah. Also, too, on that note, like with buying leads and getting in front of people, I do believe, hey, you got to be consistently selling, and too many people are worried about all the marketing and tech and all the other things, right? And they want to become something they're not. What would you say is like an optimal amount of leads, appointments? Like, what should a week look like ideally?
So the way I see it, now I'm just going to pretend I'm talking to a brand new agent. We can diversify. We want to dive into what their budget is. If they have no budget at all, they can tap into their warm market. It's not our business model, but for someone that has nothing, we either have leads for them that, we will cover their batch of leads, for instance. But if their system doesn't have that, their current, company doesn't provide that, tap into your warm market and try to reach out to as many prospects as possible. So all you need is one sale, essentially, to fund your first batch of leads. Thankfully, this industry is lucrative enough to pay you a sufficient amount for you to invest in your first batch. But there isn't a particular number. Lead costs vary from lead type to lead type. But I would say at minimum, see 20 people a week, no matter what you got to do.
Yes.
That's a solid number, is to see 20 people a week when you're first starting off, or as many people. That should be your bare minimum. But the sky's the limit, essentially. 20 people minimum a week. And if you close a fourth of them, you're doing pretty well.
Yep. If you can consistently do that every week, shoot, you're going to be just fine for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If they've been watching this thinking, man, dude, I like these guys. I want to reach out. I want to learn more about what they're doing. I need help, whatever it is. What should they do, or where should they go?
So for the insurer side of things, I'm always an open book. You can reach out to my Instagram. It's _MOERAY. That is _MOERAY, Mo-Ray. That's my Instagram. Again, this is for the insurance side of things, agents that are struggling. They just want some pointers, or agency leaders that want a better system to help their agents out. I've always been an open book. I mean, I told you this earlier. I do what you do, but you do it on a larger scale. That's why I resonate with you, Cody, and I respect what you do. I truly do. So that's how you'd reach out to me. Mike, if you want to tell them how they could reach out to you.
Yeah, you can reach out to us on the FEX Life CRM on Instagram. That's our tag, FEX LIFE CRM. And there's our link tree. You can see a lot of our features. Sign up for our beta sign up. We're letting a select amount of agents in just to make this platform solid and hopefully assist you guys in your everyday workflow.
That's at no cost.
Yeah, no cost. Yep.
Let's go, man. Amazing interview. Phenomenal. Congrats on the success. Mo and Mike, thank you for coming on the Power Player Podcast.